when the contract is written in a way where it only benefits a client or only benefits a design team,
or the contractor,
it'll fail, or the contractor. Then I think it'll fail, because I think all three parties have to have an equally invested response to producing the best product possible. And I think if that, and some of it is philosophical, I think more clients today, and certainly healthcare systems, because healthcare is a very complex, very expensive product to design and build.
Right.
And I think the benefit to IPD is really that they understand those metrics, they understand the dollars, and they understand the sensitivity to deliver a product that's better than the rest and on budget. There's more at risk for them. And then, if you share that risk with the contractor and with the design team, mutually, the benefits far outweigh any risk that's involved. And I think that's what's important for everybody to understand.
No, I agree. And especially when you mentioned a term that takes me a little back in the day of Motorola's in the manufacturing industry that I once was a part of, Six Sigma.
Yep.
6 decimal points on the ratios of errors, meaning no errors. So if you're not getting the owner, the end user, the engineer, the architect, the contractor, all in the beginning, driving towards what the goal is, in-process review all the way through, feedback when it's closed, let's start the next, so we can start getting into a point where there's no mistakes.
Yeah, well, and, what we're trying to do, and we don't have a lot of traction yet on this, is, we do a lot of work with a lot of different healthcare systems, and we have pretty good relationships. Getting the entire team invested day one and make sure that the contractual obligations for everybody is mutually beneficial for the best product possible. We also understand that there's always room for improvement. So what we also want to do, and this could be a collaborative effort that we haven't really gotten into yet, but maybe it's a proposition I'll make now, do a debrief and a closeout and the lessons learned. And, let's do some type of workshop or some type of analysis on what worked best for a project, what could be improved. I think that's an integral part of, the entire process as well, because once you turn over space and people are operating in it, that's really not the end of the life cycle. The life cycle will continue. The practice will improve. I think the space potentially could improve. And if we keep that in mind as another component of this entire process and lifespan of a project, I think ultimately you'll get better and better at producing better results. And I think that's something we should all strive for.
I agree. And again, it's state the goal, educate people on what a Six Sigma means, and debriefing and closing that loop and reflecting after on those metrics. If that's not done, how do you get there? And maybe just reaching for those no errors at all. And this is our process to get there. Interesting things will come out. Again, I smile at the contractor to be involved really early, because we'll get to know the intent much better. Because a lot of the times, and we do a lot of healthcare as well, and when it's we got the drawings and it's 7 to 10 days to get the number back to you with the critical path analysis and schedule, and then 5 days to mobilize, and what was a 24-week construction schedule became a 20 or an 18-week because the pre-design took longer. And, I'm still seeing that a lot from the healthcare industry. But I believe as people get more educated and looks at these other types of project delivery mechanisms, we can start earlier and earlier. You see it earlier. As a contractor, half the time we see it earlier. We are seeing it starting to change. Look, the reality of the older model where, designers brought on board, he deals with leadership. Leadership doesn't necessarily
get full buy-in by the end users. We design a space, we start construction, and, you know, whether it's the lead doctor or the nursing staff that starts coming in to look at stuff and say, you know, this isn't how we need it to work. We need to do it this way or a different way. That slows down the project. It adds change orders to the project. It's ineffective as a process.
Yep.
But with that said, bringing a contractor in after the fact as a GMP, and they got to pour over the drawings, and I'll be honest, you know, sometimes they're pouring over them to see the holes or the misses that we have in our drawings. You're starting the entire relationship for a long process and a very expensive process as adversaries. That's probably produces the worst product available.
Yep. Inefficiencies, more costs because you're spending time on the wrong things.
Exactly. So,
you know, I'm going to spend 20% of my time proving that what I did was the right thing, and you own it, not me.
Exactly. Well, and even just and look, the reality is, you know, it's a very complex business that we all do.
Right.
You know, construction and design. You know, I'll be the first to say there's never going to be 100% perfect set of drawings. It just, you strive for that all the time, but there's just too many parts and pieces to guarantee that. If you work with a contractor collaboratively on the same side and come up with, and I don't want to say VE items, but, you know, options of design that produce the same result, the same look, at a better value or a faster turnaround, that's productive. You know, arguing about a product that, well, it's a lead time, we gave you the shop drawings, it's 14 weeks out, that's not my fault.
Exactly.
That doesn't help the client, it doesn't help us, it's embarrassing all the way around. It's the wrong premise to start a relationship.
Yeah, again, especially in the world that we live on, where collaboration is a big thing. You want to put the environment that best drives collaboration. That triangle model, right? The owner, the contractor, the architect, that has values on check and balance, but it's not the best motivated platform for collaboration. Right?
Very true.
Let me move on to it, just not too far away, but the topic of, we just talked about a new type of project delivery mechanism, IBD, that not only talks about early collaboration and a contract that's aligned in that way. Other trends that are going on in the industry, technology, and I'll mention just some things. As the contractor, I'm getting more and more excited that the investment dollars are happening in the world of software applications. So whether that's, you know, the plan grids and the pro chords, the old Timberlines and the Verilogs, and there's so many of them. And now BIM 360 and Autodesk bought Plan Grid. Lots going on. We've been hearing BIM forever, but I see very few. Again, we're not building $100 million projects, but, you know, $20, $30 million projects, I'm not seeing BIM. Are you? And what else are you seeing in the area of technology, collaboration in the construction and design side?
So we are seeing BIM models, and I'll be honest, at least to date, the people that are pushing BIM and modeling of new projects are really the clients. Northwell, NYU, Mount Sinai to some degree, but NYU and Northwell specifically, their master service agreements require us to do BIM drawings for every project going forward. What unfortunately happens is, if you're not doing a ground up building, and if you're working in an existing hospital that has a 24/7 patient care facilities, the difficulty is it's almost impossible to really do a detailed enough survey of the three-dimensional space to be able to build a model, because ultimately the engineers have to open up all the ceilings. They need to survey every piece of ductwork, every piece of conduit, IT cabling, cable trays, sprinkler piping, and so on, so they get full three-dimensional models, so they know where they could add ductwork, they know where they have to pull in conduit, they know what the obstructions are. The problem is with existing healthcare facilities, if you're dealing with that, it's really impossible to do a BIM model, so we're really falling back to a 2D CAD set of drawings. But, with that said, for hospitals, any new hospital now will definitely be done in 3D. Most hospitals now, if they can afford the time to do the survey, want to have the floors on a BIM model, because eventually they're going to do all their diagnostics and all their upgrades based off of that model. They're going to understand what they have to do for HVAC. Healthcare is a commoditized market right now. People want to be able to control the temperature in their room. They're going to want to control, from a technology point, the TV in their room, shades, lighting. All those things require smart buildings. All those things require additional infrastructure to aging facilities. So without the BIM model and without truly understanding the space three-dimensionally of where you can add some of this infrastructure, it's impossible to do the upgrades. So I think the product that you have out in at least the New York top metropolitan area, especially New York City, you're going to have to start developing BIM models, even though it will be a hardship to start to develop. It's the only way to really get the efficiencies out of the space above the ceiling, which is as congested as anything in a healthcare system, to be able to do those smart buildings and get that technology in place to give people the environment they want to actually convalesce in, and actually are better healing environments.
Yep. No, and I agree. The same types of things I've been seeing from the contractor's perspective on BIM, the larger organizations out there with many millions of square feet of space, whether that's the healthcare brands, the school brands as well, same type of things. I'll see that even for the contractor, for coordination, drawing overlays, or as-built. From a BIM standpoint. Now, from a collaboration standpoint, it's interesting to see where that's going. I don't know if you have an opinion on that, and that's more on the pre-construction to really construction to closeout. Whether that's the Procores of the world, are you seeing the engagement there, or the requirements, or we're still a little early there?
I think we're still a little early, and I think part of it also is there's so many pieces of software out there for as project management tools, and there's probably 2 or 3 that you just mentioned that are probably top of the field. But from the design world, we don't all own those applications, and depending on which contractor is on board, they have a Procore or something else. Until there's kind of a universal model, or there's a software that can communicate across platforms, that's the challenge. BIM has pretty much solidified around Revit as the software of choice, and that's why it has traction. It's the same reason why AutoCAD was the sole source of 2D drawing. They cornered the market. Until you have a project management platform that has that bandwidth, I think it's going to be hard for everybody to collaborate, because people just have separate software systems.
And it's interesting, I agree from that conclusion. It's, as a mid-sized contractor, I have a dedicated tools developer that can write code to connect the disparate pieces out there. That probably never happened 5 years ago, right? We usually don't increase our overhead as the constructor. Anyway, hey, Al, we're running out of time. I want to say thank you for the chat. That was Al Thompson. signing off.